How are you doing, Arsenal fans all over the world? You're welcome to the very, very first episode of myself and my brother Eddie talking about everything Arsenal. We have put this away for way, way, way too long. We should have started this like last season, right? But hey, we're here now. It's all about the passion for the team. It's all about the passion for the sports, the love, and it's just us kicking back, talking about the games, the state of the team as it stands. And there's so much going on right now. And I think the perfect place to start is the first game. You know, what were your thoughts, Edusa, on the first game of the season, the new signings, and how they're adapting to our play style?
You know, it was the first game of the season. We saw them in preseason, and you can already see that some of the issues that we had last season are already being addressed from the way we set up, from the way we played, and also because of the personnel that we have brought in. But again, new players everywhere trying to get relationships on the pitch. Runs were not coming off, passes were not coming off. It was a bad day in the office as per like how beautiful we played, but a good day in the office, taking 3 points at the Theatre of Dreams, which it's never an easy job for any team to do.
So a lot of fans, like this is the thing that has been echoed around social media, everyone complaining about the performance. But in my perspective, I think the performance was a masterclass away performance at Old Trafford, a ground that we really haven't been getting a lot of joy for the past, 20 odd years. But we went and had a smash and grab mission. Could have easily scored a few more on the counter if we were a bit more decisive with our passing. I think the team is still trying to get used to Gyökeres' runs and, you know, the kind of play style that suits his runs. I think that was a masterclass performance. The defense was resolute. Saliba and Gabriel solid at the back. Calafiori, I can't praise him enough. For the first game of the season, a lot of players just trying to feel themselves out and, you know, get into the groove of the season. I don't think that was such a bad away performance. In fact, it was more a credit to Manchester United. They played much better than personally, I expected them. The new signings were quite threatening all through the game. Buemo on the right, Konya popping up all over the place and being direct through the middle. So I think we might be understating how good Manchester United were by just chalking it down to a bad performance for Arsenal.
I don't want to say the expectations are too high, but people or some fans tend not to understand that there are going to be bad days. But having to come out with a result on a bad day is credit to the team, because you can say it's a smash and grab, you can say it's a perfect performance. Knowing how good our defenders are, 1v1, I don't want to say it was an easy day, but you could give them credit for that performance. And in the past, if we play like this, there are chances that we lose that game 3-1. That will score first. But that is a testament to how this team has progressed, how they have matured from boys to men. Because sincerely, I think no matter how good or bad they play, they can hold themselves with any team in Europe because of how good they are individually and also how good they are as a unit. And for United, going into the game, a lot of fans, I know the excitement of the new season and all were like, oh, we need to like give them a thrashing and all of that. But looking at who they've brought in front, like you mentioned, Konya and Buemo, like they are perfect for how they want to play. Like those half spaces, half turns, as I usually call them, breaking off and using their wing backs to stretch the pitch as wide as they can. And people kind of underestimated them. No matter how bad the team is or no matter where they finish in the table last season, it is still Manchester United at the Old Trafford. In the past, we have gone there and meeting a worse Manchester United team and we still got beat. I remember a team with Rashford as the striker who had an exam, still give us problems, right? Like a young Rashford at 18, 19 under Van Gaal. So we can go on and on. I remember even the cup game last season that we lost at home, that we were knocked out. We played everything we could play, but they did the job. Also, there was a game at Old Trafford where we basically had the ball, and then one long ball from Bruno, one free kick, and it's all done. So for me, it was a job well done, and yeah, maybe I just put it to controlled chaos, right? The game was a bit
Yep.
chaotic, but I would say it was
Yep.
a controlled chaos. Yeah.
Yep. And the happiest person in the dugouts, person I think would be Nicolas Jova, set piece coach, back on the score sheets again.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
almost starting to feel towards the end of last season like other teams have figured out how to defend set pieces. But it's nice to see they've kind of mixed it up, and that's ultimately what has given us the 3 points in that game.
Yeah, I quite agree with that, especially towards the tail end of last season. All of a sudden, we seem not to be able to score off a set piece or even be a threat. And some people attributed that to the fact that Gabriel was missing through injury. But it was just also, you can also say teams kind of approach that, took note of how we do our set piece. But the good thing is the boys and Jova every season, they come up with something new. Even during the season, the way we started playing set piece at the beginning wasn't how we ended the season. And then with the new rules coming into play this season again on how contact is in the box and all, so adjustments are going to be made, right? So that I would say is something the boys and Jova look. And then someone I also want to mention who I feel will be excited about the last game, and also in preseason, you could see how much work he's doing with the team individually, is Gabriel Heinz, right? The new coach that we got, the former
new
Manchester United
assistant, yeah.
You could quite see he was very animated in the bench, though he didn't get up and all of that, but you could see him, he couldn't stay in his seat at the bench. Because when he was brought in, the first thing that I did was, yes, I know his career, how he fared in Argentina and America, but I didn't know what his strengths were as a coach, right? So I did a deep dive, and I saw that one of his strengths is how he sets up high up the pitch and at the same time press and then play on the fast break. And these elements are what we're missing in our games last season. And as far back as our second game in preseason, you could see that these elements were already being put into how we play. So again, I would say he's been a major part of the progress we're making this season. That is a testament to how the game how far it has gone. Like a little backroom staff appointment can change everything for you. Look at what City is doing. There was a great video by Football Analysis where they looked at how Pep Linders, the former assistant to Klopp that Pep had gotten to join his team, how element of his strengths are already being put in how City plays, of keeping the high line, no matter who the ball is on, they push up, right? So that is another example of how these little changes in the back room can make and break your season.
Right. Let's touch on the new signings, those that managed to get minutes in. Gyökeres had about 59 odd minutes, but unfortunately had no shots. We couldn't see. I was itching to do that celebration at Old Trafford, but he didn't have any service, to be honest. And then a lot of fans were getting on his back for his overhit cross and just things like that, which is weird. I always say you can't judge a shark by its ability to climb trees. You'd give it 0 points, right? What I didn't notice was he kept making runs in behind, and for some reason the midfielders kept ignoring and going wide. So I guess things like that are what the coaches could work on to just help bring out the best of our gunman. Zubimendi in the middle, I think he had a decent game. Madueke coming in quite late. I don't know, 50-50. What do you think of the performance of the new signings?
I'll go one after the other. For Gyökeres, you could, as you mentioned, you could see those runs coming. He kept it coming. Sometimes he peels up the right, peels up the left. And that is what we're going to get from him. He's how many weeks now? 4 weeks with his new teammates. They've traveled only God knows how many thousands of miles to the Far East Asia, and then they're back. I can as well say he has not had enough session, which is true. Relationship in football would happen by the minutes you play together, the number of times you train, by just having little conversations that, hey, anytime you have the ball, I like peeling off this, that will come. I'm not worried about that. And I always tell people that for his mode of striker, you shouldn't expect what you get from other strikers that you've had. You're not going to see him come do something Havertz will do, where you wouldn't see Havertz not doing what he would do, right? For his type,
Yeah.
he's going to keep making that run. He's going to get a game where he will make that run 20 times, and there's a chance that ball will find him 10 times. And in that 10, even if it is one that produced the goal, it is something.
He's done.
It is a
I mean,
success. Yeah,
Haaland
his
does
job is
that
done.
all the time where he goes throughout the game and
And
maybe
then
he
2
gets like
touches, he has 2
3
goals.
touches in the whole half and he gets his goal and it's continuity in the game. Yeah, so that's on Gyökeres.
Yeah, on
Thoughts
Gyökeres.
on
And then for Zubimendi, like anyone who has watched this guy for his club, Real Sociedad, and anyone who has seen him in Spain, especially in the Euros, he was very, very pivotal to that team, no matter how many minutes he played, because the undisputed number 6 for Spain, Rodrigo, was out, right? And there's always been something to his game that we needed, and that was the central penetration, right? Like central areas, whether it is the line breaking passes, whether it is the quick release. And the Atletico Bilbao game was a perfect example as to how good this guy can be to how we attack, not just how good he is on the ball, which everyone knows, right? But people could not see and understand how that his ability could help us going forward. And to me, his performance at Old Trafford was a good one. He did his job. He had good tackles. He had fouls which were not as serious or picking up a card. And he's just again going to grow into the team, stamp his authority more, and also build a partnership with Declan Rice, which seems to be which looks like it's going to be our go-to partnership for the base of the midfield. And
absolutely.
Lastly, I will say for him, he's going to be one of the most important players for us this season. And there are going to be games where he will have to sit out just to preserve those leg of his. And a friend of mine used to say that he's the kind of player where every game you don't see him, but he does his job. Just like we used to have Gilberto Silva. You could watch an Arsenal game in the old days and you won't have a camera pan to him more than 2 or 3 times in the game. But he had a perfect match. And I can say the same of Zubimendi. For Madueke, to me, it's still early calls for him. For me personally, I don't judge players quickly like that because I've seen him play in Holland. I've seen him play for Chelsea. I've seen him play for England as well. And there are aspects to his game that we as well needed. The data says so. Now, almost all clubs are moving to this data scouting model, right? And the data in the Premier League that this guy excels at, it is something that we lacked last season. So it's just like you're bringing in something to plug. But I understand the fans' reaction. I understand how they receive the player based on where he's coming from. And again, how fast the deal happened, right? The whole Chelsea-Arsenal relationship. But I want us, and like by us, I mean all Arsenal fans, to try to separate emotions of how deals happen or how we perceive deals because other deals haven't been done and actually look at the player for what they can give you. And I think he's going to be very important, take minutes off legs of other players, which was a problem last season. And then also, he will start a lot of games. Everybody, they're going to start a lot of games, I would say.
There will be plenty of time for him to show us what he has. And, well, he's been brought in, I believe, predominantly for that left wing. A lot of fans seem to believe that our weakest point is the left wing. Martinelli wasn't particularly up to his standards last season. Trossard came in, did a job, actually. I was quite impressed with a lot of Trossard's performances. And he's been rewarded with a new deal, bumped up pay, even though it still expires 2027. I believe they didn't extend the duration, but they increased his pay. that goes some way to tell us that the club actually values Trossard and his contributions. And I think Trossard is actually a very valuable player to have in the squad. And this is actually just the perfect time to bring in the conversation around Eze's signing.
The bomber.
Is that the solution to the left wing dilemma? Or, because I think the first game for Palace, Eze played predominantly on the left side. You know, he had a lot of good moments in that game. The free kick that was ruled out was amazing, even though I personally still don't understand why it was ruled out. Yeah. I've heard the explanation 101 times, but that was a beautifully executed free kick. And that is actually something we lack in Arsenal. We don't score enough goals from direct free kicks,
balls, yeah,
which is what Eze would bring into the team. And I'm quite excited for that. So now, Eze choosing Arsenal over Spurs. Eze coming into this team, does he go straight away into the starting lineup? Does he play on the left wing? Or do you think he's going to push Odegaard for that center attacking midfield position?
First off, to start off, I'll say hold that Spurs. They should hold it because they thought, they thought they had that over the line. And it was like, this doesn't only tell of how big Arsenal the club is, but his connection as well to the club. For now, it's like a full circle because this guy was let off by the club at 13, which can happen to anybody. It wasn't a mistake at that time by the club, right? And he has gone to earn his time, did his time in the lower leagues, came up and has proven that he's one of the best in the country, right?
Yep.
For what he brings to the team. This is why I think all the fans alike are kind of united behind this signing. If you see the reaction, you could see that everybody has wanted him from day one because of what they know he can do or bring to the team. And you mentioned three things. Is it for the left wing? Is it to push Odegaard? Is it is he going to come into the team immediately? So my answer to that is, if you look at how the club operates, I can't remember the last time we signed. I think the last one now we have done is Gyökeres, which we've been crying out for a while to sign a specialist in a position. Like, we'll know this is your job. This is what you do, right? For Eze, the good thing is he gives you so many solutions. It all depends on how you want to play on the day. I can myself, as an instance, I can decide, or the manager can decide, today you're going to play up the left wing because of how I want to play or how I want to build up or how I want to bring the ball coming forward, because he's a very great carrier and he can carry as much like from the deep. I think the last mode of player we had of him, not of his quality though, was ESR, right? And so that is something that he can bring for us. Depends on how we want to play. If we want to retain the ball, you can throw him up the left wing. He will do his job, because even if he starts because he plays in the left 10
and drifts into those central positions
very wide and drifts in those central areas. Yeah. So that is an option. He can play off the left. He can play centrally as a 10 instead of Odegaard if we are playing like a double pivot, right? And he's going to excel whether he drifts off the right, whether he drifts off the left. Also, if we decide to play how we played last season, in a game we decide to play with one number 6 and 2 10s, he can play on the left side. The so-called left 8 that fans are so obsessed with, that they even targeted the Shaka position. He could play on that left 8 and we'll still have our number 10 or whoever on the right. He brings so many solutions to the problems we face every day, and the problems or the positions we tend to see as we don't have good enough players, right? And I'm glad that we got that deal over the line, and
quite a statement signing. We've cried out for that quality of player, and it happened pretty quickly, like when we actually went in for it. I believe Palace and Spurs, that whole connection was just to motivate Arsenal to come forward with an improved offer, because the player was always interested in the move to Arsenal. Even though he was quoted as saying he was keen on the Spurs move, I don't know how that would have gone down during the season, but we're all happy that Eze is going to be an Arsenal player. The deal is going over the line. And yeah, we wish him all the best. And we hope that he actually is the missing piece that we need to actually challenge. I'm tired of second position. I'm actually tired of being the bridesmaid. This season will be even more challenging.
Yep.
City have strengthened. They were wobbly last season, but even with their wobble, they still came up and finished third. Liverpool were comfortable champions last season. And even with that, they have strengthened. Watching the first game, it looks like they were out for blood. And even though, yeah, you could say they had some defensive frailties, but this is the Premier League. Any team can give anyone problems on the day. I think Liverpool are the main title contenders this season. City would push them all the way. But Arsenal, with these signings, who knows? Perhaps this puts us up there in the conversation.
We all want to, be in that first position. We all want a trophy, whether it is the Premier League, whether it is Champions League, or even one of the cups. And I think they are building a squad for that now. All thanks to the owners, the manager, and better. And also, I feel we should give credit to Eze as well for holding on this long to see if that Arsenal deal will put through. Because to my understanding and from what I've read, Arsenal had like talks with him and the club as far back as June, and it's not easy for you to just keep holding when it's your future on the line. So I'll give credit to him on that. Now you look at the team, you look at what they're doing, you look at the manager's ability, you look at the, everything around the club. Do you think it's time to, weed out some players, or are you in the thought of, everyone has a job to do, let everybody be there? It's all about a squad and not just your first 11, because we have so many competitions to compete in. And then also, do you think you need any more additions to what we currently have to fully, really, really challenge for the title?
I mean, it's a long season. We're in so many competitions. I don't think any of the players that we currently have, we should be in a hurry to move on. There was talks about moving Trossard on to free up funds. There were talks about moving Jesus on, talks about moving, who else? The Kivio, the centre-back, even though there's still potentially a move for him in the cards. But I think it's a long season. Who knows what would happen? Like, there could be injuries. There could be just a need to rest players, right? So you always need that depth. I think we have a decent enough squad. We have 2-3 players in each positions. Certain players would still come back from injury. Fingers crossed. I think we have a wild card in Gabriel Jesus. I think very strongly towards the middle of this season, he would come clutch in whatever forward position Arteta decides to deploy him in. He's actually that versatile, and he's one of the few flair players that we have. Well, now we're adding Eze, but that flair player that can create something out of nothing. I remember his very first season. I was actually at the Emirates to watch one of his first games, and it was just like magic, creating chances out of nothing, finishing from tight angles. And it's just been very sad that injuries have, slowed him down. And I'm really, really hoping that this is the season where he gets to win back the love of the fan base and prove all his doubters wrong. So yeah, we do have a very, very quality team, in my opinion.
In terms of addition, do you think like anybody is needed?
I know who you're looking for, a certain young Brazilian from Madrid. But personally, I think he's surplus to requirements. We have enough firepower up front, especially now with the addition of Eze. There's talks about a loan deal with an obligation to buy at the end. Perhaps that may be the cherry on the cake, but as it stands, I think we have enough firepower up front. We hope Havertz's injury isn't long term, but from initial indications, it's a slight injury, so we should have him back as an option soon. So we have lots of options moving forward. So yeah, Rodrigo or any other attacking talents will just be, an addition, an icing on the cake, and not like an absolute need to patch any problem. I think with the addition of Eze, all the problem areas that we started off the transfer window, with have actually been patched. So we have to actually give kudos to Berta and Arteta for actually getting these deals over the line. We needed cover in defense. We got Mosquera, who's looked amazing in preseason, and I know he's going to deliver through the season. In the midfield, Partey out. We managed to get in Zubimendi, who is looking fantastic, pretty much doing the same things that we knew and loved Partey for, breaking up play, all of the interceptions and the dogged tackling, and even adding a bit more with, the ball carrying and the distribution. And now it looks like a formidable partnership with Declan. So all the additions, Gyökeres up front, we've been asking for an out-and-out number 9. I remember when we played them in the Champions League, he was literally the only person that gave us a nightmare. We controlled that performance throughout, but on his own, he decided once or twice to, just run at the defenders and shoot and try to create something out of nothing, right? And that is something that we have actually been lacking in Arsenal, when in those tough games with oppositions that have set up the bombastic low block, and we're stuck passing side to side, we need that person that just looks at the defense line and says, you know what, I'm going to try something and shoot at goal, right? We haven't had that for a while, and we're hoping to see a lot of that with him in the Arsenal shirt. So personally, I think we're equipped for the season right now, and I hope we are favored by the injuries this season and we don't have lots of players out. And I also hope that we are favored by the PGMOL, because that's a very important prayer to have.
Well, from what I saw, some of the calls I saw at the United game, I think maybe they've been hearing our cry. I'll say. Anyway, that aside, no, not the penalty. No, I don't agree with that.
It was not a penalty. I think it was a pen.
No, well,
on
that
another
is
day, it would have been called a pen.
Yeah, on another day, as you say, but on that day, it's good that it wasn't called. Anyway,
so perhaps they're now on our side.
We'll see. On the squad, I 100% agree with you. I think we have enough firepower, what we have, but this is my thinking, and I feel that Rodrigo deal is just, I think it's just for, if it happens, it's not because the squad, his type of player or the squad lacks his quality. I just feel it will just be maybe a business decision, like now is the time, you understand. And also that I feel will depend on the outgoings and the positions that those outgoings. So this, I want to play a game here. This is my thought, right? Because doing that deal is going to cost the club, if you want to do the deal outrightly, it's going to cost you at least 150 million euros. That can happen if the reports that I saw today of the Saudis circling around Martinelli for 80 million pounds, that might be something you want to look at, right? And then also there was a report today that Kivior was in conversations with clubs. So if Kivior move, as much as we have defenders who could play that position, maybe bringing in a very, very young center back to be a fourth choice is not a bad idea, like an 18, 19, 20-year-old, right? And then back to the Rodrigo scenario. If, say, for instance, they cash in 80 million, which is a lot of money for someone we signed for 6 million. If they cash in 80 million on him, then you could see, okay. But I would prefer, right? This is my thought. Bring him in on loan with an obligation for next year. That means whatever cash for that deal goes into your books next year, right? And then that gives you 1 year to take the best again out of Trossard and move him on next year, because he will have 1 more year left and he will be 31. That is if you don't cash in on Martinelli. That way, by next year, you have Rodrigo and still Martinelli as your options, which are not bad options for your left wing. You still have the Madueke who can play there. You have the Eze who can play there. And an interesting thing today that happened in the open training session was the freedom given to the wingers to swap positions. So with the open training session, there were times
We
where
haven't seen that often from Arsenal. Our wingers maintain their positions.
exactly. So in the open training, we have Madueke play on the right, we had Saka on the left, and then Saka went back to the right, Madueke went back to the left. We saw how what he did against United, drifting to the left, and all of a sudden we saw Madueke on the right on that chance, right? And then also I saw that in his game, drifting more into central areas when he came back from injury. It got us a goal against Real Madrid. And then games after that, I could see that he had the freedom to move into central areas. So if that freedom is allowed across the three positions in the front, because the striker that we have is not going to be stationary in the middle. He's someone who would run off the right, run off the left.
He actually moves across,
Yeah. So because of that, you have to have other players that are ready to balance that line. And again, we've seen that with the amazing club side with Firmino, Salah, and Mane. Like the freedom of their movement causes enough chaos. Yeah, causes enough chaos to open up space, passing lanes for your midfielders and all. I just think with all that brought into play this season, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful season. Speaking of the season being beautiful ahead, what are your thoughts for the game this weekend against Leeds?
I think that should be a walk in the park. That should be the game where we see hitmen come to their own. If we have problems putting Leeds aside, then I'll be worried. We can excuse the first game being United at Old Trafford, the strong side they have. But I think this will be a true measure of where we are as a team. Are we able to comfortably beat teams that we should beat and comfortably take 3 points off them? We can excuse performances like that at United, or when we meet Liverpool, we can excuse a hard-fought battle for those points, but we should absolutely comfortably smash teams that we are expected to beat if we are truly ready to challenge for this title. And personally, I think right now Arteta has no excuses. Arteta at this point has no excuses. It's a now or never situation for him. He's been given all the tools. And if we go this season without silverware, then perhaps a conversation needs to be had about if he's the man to lead us to the promised land. I've always been against all of the Arteta out noise. I've always been about progress and measuring how far he has taken us. He has transformed the team. Not just the team, the way we play, but the whole atmosphere around the club. Sitting in the stadium now, it's a feel-good experience compared to before Arteta, the last few years of the Wenger era and all of the managerial trials, I like to say, that we had. He has come in, steadied the ship, brought in, good culture and relationship between the fans and the team, and pushed us to become title contenders and actually Champions League favorites, because that's what we were at the point before we were, kicked out by a fantastic team who went on to win the trophy, right? So I think this season will be very, very pivotal for him. Right now, he really, really, really needs to win one trophy at the very least.
Yeah, I think he himself, if you listen to his pressers recently, I think he knows that. And this has always been my thought. I don't think there's any fan out there. It's just a thought that wants to win more than the manager. I don't think there's anyone that's comfortable not winning. Like everybody wants to win. Everybody, as much as we fans want to win, I think the players and the manager as well, they want to win, because if they don't, they won't do so much work that we see them do. They won't put in so much effort that we see them put in, especially last season that we were knackered due to injuries. These players still went on, held their own against one of the best teams in Europe, and eventually lost to the eventual winners of the Champions League. Only
Yeah.
lost the league to They only lost the league to the eventual winners, even if people say we really didn't compete, but we
The
finished
points
second. That
gap.
means the only person who beat us to it were the eventual winners. So that
Yeah.
is something that we can look forward to and say these guys really want to win. And I just feel with the squad we have, that increases our chances, especially with the cups. I'm always for these. I don't want to call, they are not little trophies, they are major trophies. I used to remember how important Jose Mourinho used to say the Carabao Cup was to him, because he would say, if by the end of February and early March my players win this trophy, that is enough drive for them to go on to challenge or win the. And if you look at the City records, most of in the last 6 league titles or 5 league titles that they've won, they've gone to win the Carabao Cup 4 times of that. And once after that final, they always have one outstanding game, but they keep on going. And then with that outstanding game, the whole title, that was what happened to us 2 seasons ago, right? So it is something that I hope everyone at the club as want
They
as much
push, it
as
helps them push over the finish line as the season progresses. Yeah, I mean, this has been a very interesting conversation. I would absolutely love you, the viewer, to totally smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't. And I'd love us to build this little community where we, just vibe and talk about the club we love and, measure our progress, see how far we've come. And hopefully at the end of the season, we'll be throwing a party here celebrating what? A double? A treble?
Yeah,
who knows?
You never know.
But at the very least, champions of something
and
in
don't
England.
forget for the viewers, we have something in the works for you for next year for the World Cup. So please just hit the like, get subscribed, and then let's build that community, and we will be absolutely appreciative of that. And trust me, we have something coming up for the World Cup as well.
Amazing. All right, man. Catch you on the flip side.
Yep. See ya, brother.